Awesome, we're on. What's up? What's up? So it's February 15th, 2023. It's been one of those days, right? Like I had so much going on. And once I was done, I was like, you know what? This has been on my mind to talk about. I was getting ready to record a video for YouTube, which I'm going to do later, now that we've launched our YouTube channel. But I wanted to come out here and just share a couple of points with someone who could benefit from this. The thing with being, someone who's in the space and has so much information to offer, it's like you never know where to cut the limits. So my brain is always working. It's like there's so much I want to share. I wish sometimes, like, God, I need 48 hours a day because I want to teach. I want to pour out my heart. And this year I made a commitment that my goal is to empower our community with as much knowledge as I possibly can. So I'm gonna be popping in and out of here teaching anytime that I'm able to, while I'm also creating content on YouTube for those who are not able to catch live videos to be able to watch. So today, I finished a couple of meetings, and these actually came up in the course of my meeting. I met a couple of people who were thinking about starting a business, but they kept saying, in my heart, I've always wanted to actually set up a nonprofit. And so I figured it would actually be nice to talk about some things to think about when it comes to that decision. Because setting up a nonprofit or a business, I don't think you could go wrong with either route. But there needs to be a lot of clarity on so many levels. And so I have 5 things on my list today that I think it's so important for you to think about, right? Before you go through the process of setting it up, because a lot of people have started either a business or a nonprofit and realized they could have gone a different route because that was not really what they intended to go into. So I'm hoping that by the end of this video that someone would have had enough clarity, which is going to help them to know which way to go. So if you're thinking about setting up a nonprofit or thinking about setting up a business, the first thing I want you to be able to clarify is what your purpose is. So generally, when you think of a nonprofit, this is really for someone who has something that is in their heart. It's almost like a pain point, and they know that it's going to impact the lives of so many people. So when you're thinking a nonprofit, I want you to really consider, even if I didn't get paid for what I'm doing, will I still be happy to do it? With that mindset, it becomes so much easier to go the nonprofit route versus choosing the business route. Because with nonprofit, sometimes you could go years and not even get any support. So it has to be something that first is, so much bigger than you. It's a mission that is so much bigger than you. And it's something that you would do even if nobody was paying you for it, right? And so if you're that person, I would say seriously consider the nonprofit route. My second thing I want you to think about is how you want to make money. Let me tell you something. Some nonprofits struggle to make money. Why? Because when you're set up as a nonprofit, which I'm going to talk a little bit more after this, how they get set up, you're really set up to pursue a mission, not to pursue profits. And so not that you cannot have profits, but for that reason, the way you go about your activities is very different from someone who is set up as a business. They run as a business, they operate as a business. So if you are someone who wants to make money and you don't want any limitations to how much money you can actually earn through your business or through whatever activity you're doing, then being a business is a way better option. I'm not saying that nonprofits cannot actually have activities that can, they can exchange goods or services for money. You absolutely can. Now, here's the thing with that. In that case, for a nonprofit who is providing a service or goods that people can pay for, you have certain limits. It has to be in line with your mission. It cannot take too much of you guys' time. And if it's not in line with your mission, and then what will happen is you'll be treating it as unrelated business expenses. So for that reason, I would say really consider that second element. How do you want to make money? If you want to go into provide a service or to sell goods and you don't want anybody to cap how much you can make or try to control that, then I would say go as a business. But if you're someone who you can, that will not be much big of a deal in your organization, then you could think of the nonprofit route. The third thing, which I think is so big, is ownership. I want to clarify something. When you set up a nonprofit, unfortunately, you do not own the nonprofit. Nonprofits have founders. So when you set up a nonprofit, you're considered a founder, but you're not an owner. That's why nonprofits are generally set up as corporations. So when you set it up as a corporation, it means it's completely independent of you, the owner. That's why nonprofits must have board of directors, because the board of directors are the people that make decisions on behalf of that nonprofit, not you. I think somebody was asking, do I know if well, unfortunately, I'm going to come to that, but I'm not talking about taxes today. I'm talking about nonprofits and businesses, making up your mind which way to go. So as a nonprofit, nobody owns a nonprofit. You set it up as a founder. And so I need to explain that, because sometimes people always say things like, this is my nonprofit. Unfortunately, even as a founder, you can be voted off the board. Can you imagine? Here's why. When you set up a nonprofit, you're setting it up for a mission. That's why when you set it up, you incorporate at the state level, you apply for tax exemption. The IRS grants you a tax exemption on the premise that you're going to be operating for a mission, for a purpose. And then they allow people to be able to support you to pursue that mission, and they don't have to pay taxes on that money. And then you who gets the money from them, because there was no exchange of goods or services per se, you don't have to pay taxes. So they give you a donation, you pursue a mission, you don't have to pay taxes on it. Does that make sense? So that's why nobody owns a nonprofit. And so if you decided to close a nonprofit, the proceeds or whatever is left in your nonprofit account has to go to another nonprofit, or it's going to go to the state. So if you're thinking of setting up something that you want to pass on to your kids, where it's ownership, you want to build legacy, then a nonprofit is not for you, okay? It's better off for you to stay off the nonprofit route. And I wanted to add something. In addition to, because I mentioned that you can be voted off your board, yes, that can happen when you're no longer aligned with the mission of your organization. So when you have board of directors that make decision on behalf of your nonprofit, let's say you set up your nonprofit saying, I'm going to help widows, for example. Now, people have donated money to your organization for you to help widows. If you wake up tomorrow and you say, no, I want to take a good mission too. I want to take care of cancer patients. Now, there's nothing wrong with that mission. It's actually a great mission, but that's not why people gave money to you. And so for that reason, you can absolutely have your board vote you off, because you guys will be using funds that was given for a particular mission to use for another one. Now, if the board votes that you guys should help cancer patients that are not necessarily widows, you can go ahead. But if you decide to say, I'm going to do is my nonprofit, they can vote you off, and the IRS is fine with that. So when you think of setting up a nonprofit, I want you to understand you don't own it. So, if you're thinking of setting up something you can pass on to your kids, then a business will be a better route. That's the third one. So the first one we said was the purpose. The second one we said was how you want to make money. The third one is ownership. The fourth one I have for you is control. So when it comes now to your business, as a business owner, I'll take an example myself. There are certain things I might decide for my business and say, you know what, we're not doing this anymore. We cut the service, right? That's what a business owner is capable of doing. You have control. Unfortunately, that does not work with nonprofits. No matter how great your idea is, when you bring that to the nonprofit, the board has to vote on it and agree that this is the direction to go. Which means when you set up a nonprofit, you don't have as much control over the decision making. If the board doesn't agree, unfortunately, you cannot move on with that idea. And so it's important to keep that in mind, because I've seen people get very frustrated about, setting up a nonprofit, and they feel like they are stuck. They can't move. The board is not voting. Yes, that happens because you don't have that control anymore. The moment the IRS granted you that tax exempt status, the agreement was decisions on that organization will be made by board of directors who don't get paid. By the way, the board of directors don't get paid. They are volunteers, and the IRS requires them to be like that because they have to stay objective. Their minds cannot be blurred. They cannot be persuaded into making decisions that will not serve the mission of the organization, because they are benefiting financially from the organization. So you have to keep that in mind. That's the fourth one. When you go the nonprofit route, your control is less. I'm not saying that you cannot make decisions. So long as you have a good board and you have a board that works well and your ideas will take the nonprofit forward, they do not have any reason to not agree with you, right? Hey, poor! Oh my God, guys, I apologize. For me, Leonard, my baby brother who is on here, his wife just gave birth. Congratulations, Pooh! They just had a baby boy. I had to shout. Sorry, I said it on live. I've been so excited. That's probably why I'm working late today, because of you. You made me so happy. I had to take a moment just to pray for you guys and interrupted my flow. But yeah, congratulations. I wanted to give you that shout out. So, but yeah, so think about it. Control. So if you're someone who wants to have control over your decisions, when you make them, how you make them, I just want to let you know the nonprofit route will not be the best for you. But can you have people that you work together? Absolutely. It's all about communication, right? That should not discourage you. The fifth one that I have for you guys is funding. So how do you plan to seek funding for your organization? Now, there are people that want to be able to leverage public funding or grants to be able to build their organizations. Those kind of people, nonprofit route will be the best. Why? You can have an idea that could benefit the community, the society. There are a ton of other people that will want to support that. And there are already other existing entities that are set up to fund people like you through your nonprofit to be able to pursue that mission that improves the lives of others. And so for that reason, you know, I would say go for the nonprofit route, because there's nobody who, you know, can see a nonprofit who is making results, changing lives, impacting communities, and will not want to support. That's why you have there are major nonprofits that bring in millions of dollars a year. It's because of the work that they are doing. Even major hospitals actually non-profit, you know. But if you're a business person who is like, you know, I would rather build my business, and of course I don't get to I don't get to have to wait on grants or donations, then you're fine pursuing, you know, your business route. So these 5 things are things that I really want you to think about if you're deciding to become a nonprofit or set up a business, because sometimes I've seen people rush into this and they have gotten stuck. Now, let's talk about a few things, because, you know, I don't think I should just leave you guys. I want to explain how nonprofits work, how they are set up. So that way, if you're deciding that you want to do it, at least the fact that you were watching this, you took something out of it. So if you decided that you wanted to set up a nonprofit, you will normally incorporate at the state level as a non-stock corporation or a non-profit corporation. What that does is it gives it its own identity, its own mind, means the non-profit can you know, go into debt, the non-profit can make decisions and all those kind of things with the help of a board of directors. Now, once you set that up, that does not mean you're tax exempt yet. When you set up at the state level, what it does is that it's giving you permission to operate within a jurisdiction. And I'm going to explain why I'm saying that. Okay, once that is done, you go get your EIN number, and then you can apply now for the exemption with the IRS. Because the nonprofit is not owned by you any way, shape, or form, but you're setting it up for a mission, you have to have your board of directors, as I mentioned. Something to note, the people that are there when you set it up don't have to stick with you when you start to run it. So you can have people that you put their names as your founding board members just because you're still trying to build. But once you're ready to run, please make sure you get people that can actually help you. Because there are a lot of people that have set up nonprofits and they're carrying the burden all by themselves. And they have all these cute people sitting on their boards just saying, I'm a board member of so-and-so nonprofit, but they're not doing the work. They're not helping you with making decisions. They're not helping you raise money. All those things that the board of directors need to be doing. So now, once you're done with the IRS and they grant you your exemption, generally, if you're not a church, a school, or a hospital, you will normally do a form called the 1023EZ, and it takes like 3 weeks to a month now, sometimes a little longer, but the IRS has been really quick. They upgraded their systems, they're granting it fast. When you get that and you come to the state, why I was explaining this is because there are certain states that require you to actually get permission to solicit funds. So guys, if you decided that you wanted to set up a nonprofit and you're operating within one of those states, they call it charitable solicitation, permission to solicit charitable donations, yes. Please make sure you apply with your state. The reason is because if you don't get the permission to solicit funds and you start to do fundraising stuff in your state, they can tax you on that money. So you want to make sure you do that. Certain states require you to actually apply for a state exemption, like Texas. That way you can benefit from some local businesses. You can do that as well. Other states, they'll just honor your federal exemption. Now, the reason I'm explaining this is because once you have this stuff rolling, you're able to start, seeking fundings, grants, and all of those kind of things. Sometimes you may not have money, but you'll be able, you can still start running your organization. You need to file taxes, guys. Even if you had no money coming in, you have to file taxes, because if you do not file taxes after 3 years, the IRS will take back that status that they granted you. So they will revoke your exemption status, and you'll not be able to seek to raise funds or get any grants. I'm just explaining that so someone who wants to go through that nonprofit route can know how the process goes. Now you see there are a lot of moving parts here, because once you get exempt with IRS, there's also the state element of it, and then of course you and your board can start doing your activities, raising funds, seeking grants, but you have to make sure you file taxes to stay compliant. On the business side, it's not so complicated. Once you register at the state level, LLC, corporation, however you set up, you're ready to really start running your business. So unlike the nonprofit, the business doesn't really need to file anything with the IRS after you get your EIN number, except run your business. You might need to file business license with your city, but you don't have to do anything with the IRS unless you're doing like payroll, and then you will do quarterly filings. Now, I'm going to go back again to nonprofits. I'm explaining this too, and I'll be explaining what I mean by why these things matter. For the IRS, for the nonprofit, you must file taxes, whether you make money or not, activity or not. For the business, if you don't have a net profit over $400, you don't have to file taxes. If you don't have activity, you don't really have to file taxes if you didn't make any money, unless you're an S corporation, for example. So you see how some of those things go. The next thing is with the non-profit, of course, you're able to apply for grants. Some people require you to take at least 2 years to apply for grants, but you don't necessarily have to wait 2 years. They're like few hanging fruit. With the business, unfortunately, there's no grants out there for you, okay? Unless, like COVID happened, so you have to hustle. But guys, either way you choose to go, let me tell you, you cannot go wrong. If in your heart, you want to do something that will empower communities, transform the lives of others, and you don't mind doing it, even if nobody paid you, by all means, the non-profit will be great, but you can still be a business and do the same. Now, there are certain corporations called benefit corporations, and I want to close with this. There are some people that want to do good, but want to make money. If that's you, you can set up yourself as a benefit corporation, and what a benefit corporation does is it's able to provide, a service at a fee, but they are recognized for their mission. So they are a business, but the business has a significant mission that it gets recognized by. So it's something to think about if you're like, I'm in the middle spot, I have a drive to do something really good, but at the same time, I don't want to go hungry just because I'm trying to run an organization. A benefit corporation could be a good one for you, okay? I hope this is helpful to someone. Just before I go, remember guys, please keep track of all your records. I think if anything, you could forget any of this stuff, but if you do set up a nonprofit, a business, having accurate records is really the key to all of it. With nonprofits, it's even more crucial, because when people start to give you their money to pursue a mission, please do not misuse it, do not mishandle it, do not abuse their generosity. For business people, you want to keep accurate records, especially because if Uncle Sam finds out you're playing the books, they're going to come for you. So even with non-profits, Uncle Sam will come for you if you play with the books, but more because you also want your donors to know that you're doing what you promised to do, what you set out to do, and so that way they can continue giving you the donations. Now, last point, I know I said I was done, but I'm like, look, there are a couple of people watching, this could probably help. What's the structure? It's just like a typical corporation, but certain states will allow you to register, and then you get licensed. There's a body that can give you a certificate for the benefit corporation. Not all states have embraced it yet, but the whole goal is just how you position yourself in the eyes of the public when it comes to that benefit corporation. That's a good question. Yes. So I wanted to say one thing, because when something pops in my head, I'm like, well, you guys are here. If there's somebody on here that already has a nonprofit, please hear me out. I love giving this advice to nonprofits, because I see a lot of nonprofits, they would operate and they have like $5,000-$10,000 a year, and then they'll file the 990N. Since this is tax season, please take note of this particular tip I'm giving you. If you're a nonprofit and you've been filing the 990N, especially if you've been in the cause of running, you've actually been operating your nonprofit, just not bringing in enough money, please hear me out. Don't file that again. File the 990 easy. So the 990N is generally for organizations that bring in less than $50,000 a year. And the reason for that is because the IRS assumes that there's not so much for you to report, so they do a 990N. The 990N is like an information tax return. You don't put much on it. You just put name, address. It's like a compliance thing, very basic, right? It keeps you, active on the IRS website, which means they're not going to revoke your exempt status because you're active. Now, if you have no activity and you fail to file that 990N, they can revoke your status. So that's that. But if you have been running your nonprofit, even if you didn't make up to 50,000, even if you only brought in 10,000, the reason I insist that you file the 990 easy is because the 990 easy gives you an opportunity to report your accomplishments for your organization. And that's very powerful. Why? Because if a potential donor or grantor went online and pulled your taxes, your nonprofit taxes is really the only document that they can go by. You want them to see what you've been doing. Even if you didn't bring enough money, but you've been putting in your time. There you can walk them through and say, look, these were 3 major accomplishments that we were able to do, and then you can even put additional accomplishments. If I'm someone who wants to donate to a nonprofit, if I see a 990N with nothing, and I see somebody who only brought in probably $10,000 in donations, but they did all these things, I would likely donate to that organization because I can see that they actually have results and they are doing what they said they should do, okay? So I said that was my one advice. If there's anybody on here who already has, who already founded a nonprofit and you've been filing the 990N, even though you have activities going on, please stop from this moment. Make sure you file the 990 easy so you give people the opportunity to know what you've been doing. You give people the opportunity to understand what your organization stands for, the major accomplishments that you've made, and that way, hopefully, they can seek you out to give you funds to support your mission. Okay, thank you guys so much for hopping on. This has been great. Again, like I said, this year I want to pour out everything I know, you guys. Send me your questions. If it means I have to come back on live to cover something, if there's a topic of interest to you, send me questions. I'll be happy to come and share that, because if you have that question, I'm sure other people have it. I'm making a commitment to our entire community this year. I want to teach. I want to share. I've been running this, our business, the ARC NPS, for 4 years now, and working with nonprofits, businesses, and individuals, and it's so much out there that people don't know. And so I'm really hoping that we can be a resource to you guys. The knowledge part, forget the business. We're good at what we do, so the business will always come. We're not worried. So people always think people are doing this because you want to get money, you want to make us become clients. No, that's not it. It's just because I know that as a community, if we are empowered with the right information, there's no limit to how far we can go. And when you guys start building those multi-million-dollar corporations, I know you're going to call me then. So we're good. But give me the opportunity to definitely continue pouring into you guys. So if you have questions, don't hesitate to send. Nonprofits, business, that's like my core. So take advantage, empty my brain. I'm done with school now. You see this doctor title, must put it to use. I must put, in fact, this is my own online class right here. So reach out, send your questions. Thank you guys for hopping on. Have a wonderful evening. Yes, Silva, I would send you the link, or you can just go to www.arcnps.com. For those who have tax questions, I do have a free 15 minutes schedule now on the calendar. You can block that off to come. If you have a question, you can jump on my calendar. There's a free 15 minutes. Block it off. Come on, ask me any questions you have. I'll be more than happy to provide guidance. So you can just go to our website, www.arcnps.com, and to do that. And if you ever need help setting your nonprofit or business, we also do that for people, and just to make sure that you're covered across the board. If you need guidance and you're hands-on, we're happy to also give you guidance. Okay, take care, guys. Have a wonderful evening. Bye.